really privileged to be having conversations that are engaging, debunking myths, but also speaking to Christian communities, one on how we conceive power, how we use power, but also how we interpret scriptures against or for communities. We've been having a conversation around the DEA Forum. We have had 2 episodes where we spoke about the legacy of slavery, modern slavery, and education for liberation. And today we are going to have a conversation on the same note, and we are going to have a conversation on the transformative ecumenism movement. And on this episode, we have Dr. Manchala, who will introduce himself. We will be talking about transformative ecumenism, but also the transformative ecumenism movement. Dr. Manchala.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this conversation, and I certainly deem it as a privilege. My name is Deenabandhu Manchala. I'm from India, and I have been with the transformative ecumenism process for the past 12 years, since the time it began to take shape. And currently, I coordinate the work of the transformative ecumenism that is being coordinated and sponsored by the Council for World Mission. And besides this, I work with social movements back in India, and also with pastors, especially offering them training workshops on contemporary issues. And I also used to work with the World Council of Churches and with the global ministries of the United Church of Christ and the Disciples of Christ in the US for some time before I returned to India and began to work on transformative ecumenism. And it has been a very exciting time of creating this the new idea, giving an expression and a shape to this idea of transformative ecumenism.
You could tell us how the transformative ecumenism movement is placed in the DEA framework, but also its launch in Nairobi. Remember, that's the first time I met you. Yeah.
Okay, let me just give you a bit of a background to transformative ecumenism movement. But before that, let me just give you a bit of introduction to transformative ecumenism. Transformative ecumenism is a theological idea, a theological exploration that began among a bunch of friends who have been involved with ecumenical organizations in different parts of the world.
Okay.
And we started meeting in 2012, and we kept meeting in different places, developing this whole idea of transformative ecumenism. And we were able to come up with the invitational document. And then we felt that it was time that we make it public. So we had the public launch in Nairobi last year.
Yes, I remember.
In partnership with the All Africa Council of Churches. And since then, we have been trying to expand the idea of transformative ecumenism as a movement, promote it as a movement. So what we have done is that we have an international steering group that has been formed with about 12 people from different parts of the world. And we have divided ourselves to address 4 specific tasks.
Yeah.
One is to develop the idea or the concept of transformative ecumenism further. Because as I said, transformative ecumenism is an exploration, because it is not a well-defined concept, but it is an anchor through which, it is being seen as a kind of a roadmap for further exploration to understand and to reimagine ecumenism that is relevant for the 21st century. So therefore, we felt that it is necessary that we continue to work on this theological concept of transformative ecumenism. That's one. The second thing is, now transformative ecumenism is a theological idea.
Yeah.
And we are asking people, or we are inviting people to join this movement. Now, we are not inviting institutions to join the movement. We are inviting people to join the movement.
Okay.
And
That's the
we are
difference.
inviting people's movements to join the movement. So to that extent, we need to do networking and promotion
Yeah.
and connecting with people who are engaged in transformative actions. So when I say transformative actions, this is about justice, human rights, human dignity, environment, and many other issues that are related to people and life. So therefore, the second thing is about promotion and connecting with movements and people. It's a very hard task because unlike a movement or an idea that invites organizations and institutions to come and be a part, but here we are actually sort of presenting a theological idea and asking people to come and join the movement. So therefore, it becomes a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
And the third thing is about communication. Now, we are in the process of developing a website which is ready and operational, and we are also sort of initiated a publication process, and we hope one more publication will come out of this DARE conference.
Okay.
And then there are also some reports of the colloquium. So we really want to sort of see it is explained and it is presented in such a way that
it's accessible.
It is accessible and also able to attract and invite not just church people, not just theologians, but younger people, young people, and people who are involved in action.
What I like about what you just explained is because it sounds like what we know out in the world, like a social movement.
Yes.
Where
Exactly.
there's no hierarchy.
No, exactly.
There is only people who want to bring change and transformation in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings me to another question, which you alluded to. So how does transformative ecumenism
Mm-hmm.
differ from how we have done ecumenism in the old days, especially when they relate to contemporary global issues of the day?
Okay, I must once again go back to a bit of the background history or to talk about the rationale, the reasons which compelled us to think about transformative ecumenism.
Yeah.
The thing is that the ecumenical movement of the 20th century took shape in a war-torn world, a divided world. But at the same time, it was a witness of the churches in Europe and North America. Because Christianity was predominantly had that North American, European
that's true.
character.
Yeah.
So it was the response of the churches that at that time, at that moment of war, the world divided by war and strife. But then now in the 21st century, we realize that the world has changed.
And it has other issues.
And it is changing and it is much more complex. And I really can go on and talk about all the challenges, crises and changes, but since the time does not allow us. But I would just like to say that this attempt is in response to the changed realities of the world. That's one.
Yeah.
The second thing is Christianity is not anymore a Western religion. It is a global religion.
Yeah, it is.
So more Christians live in global South than in the North.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
And at the same time, the Christians are also not a homogeneous group, even if they are growing. They are small and many and scattered all over the world. And there are lots of contradictions within. There are lots of challenges within.
Yeah.
So within this complexity and diversity, how do you make sense how do you think of a way in which Christian presence and participation in the world becomes meaningful and transformative and effective?
Yeah.
So that is
answering to the questions of the day in different contexts as people find themselves in.
Yeah. And at the same time, we also realize that in the global Christianity, especially in the global South, there are so many expressions of Christian theology or Christian presence that are very, very creative and transformative. There are so many theologies.
That's true.
So it is time for us to sort of draw on from these theologies, than to continue to draw on the Western theologies.
Western theologies. Which brings me to the question of, in the ways we understand transformative ecumenism, how do we integrate the insights from post-colonial theology and liberation theology, ecological theologies to deepen the vision of transformative ecumenism?
Now, as I said, transformative ecumenism presents itself as a new way of understanding ecumenism, not as a theological concept.
Are there insights that we can borrow from?
Yeah, I mean, it presents itself as a new consciousness.
Yes.
Of the reality of life itself.
And perhaps more collective as a consciousness than other theologies present themselves.
Yeah. Because by and large, most religions talk about life in a very limited and narrow sense.
Yeah, or very isolating to a specific group.
Groups.
Yeah.
Making a difference between, spiritual and the earthly.
Yeah. So dichotomizing our lives.
Yeah, what we're trying to do is, the transformative ecumenism calls us to understand life in its interdependence and interconnectedness.
I like that.
So that is what is special about it. So it's a new consciousness. And the second thing is, transformative ecumenism also presents itself as an alternative vision of the world that is different from the way in which we find the world today. A world that creates margins, a world that is polarized, a world that is tolerant towards injustice, a world that legitimizes violence. But here is a world that we aspire for, that ensures life with dignity, justice, and freedom for all. So it is a vision. It is a vision that guides Christians.
Yeah.
It guides people of faith, and not just to sort of compromise and accommodate or adjust with whatever is given by the powers. So in that sense, it is another one. And the third thing that I would also like to say is that transformative ecumenism is a movement of people. It's not an institution that we are trying to build.
Yeah.
It is a movement of people who are committed to the values of justice, dignity, freedom, and human rights.
So, I think the point you make in terms of the fact that it's not an institution, it's a movement, makes it easy to understand, because then it's void of hierarchy, but it's also void of the abstraction of power and how we conceive power, but also how people of different contexts show up in terms of ecumenism. Because
right.
in a world where racial justice is a problem, in a world where economic justice is a problem, then transformative ecumenism, I would say, offers the best place for collaboration, but also living as a collective body of Christ, so to say, but also I'm sure reaching out to other people who are doing good in the world. You did speak about homogeneity, but also people monopolizing the understanding. And you did touch about diversity. So why is it important for us to integrate diversity? One, you said that we need to understand that people do not occur in homogeneity, meaning even when we think about diversity, let's say think about women, women are not homogeneous, right? Africans are not homogeneous. Asian people are not homogeneous. How do we perhaps practically engage diversity without overarching other principles of transformative ecumenism?
Yeah. Transformative ecumenism affirms God, the creation, as an expression of God's wisdom in diversity and beauty. God did not create a homogeneous world. God created all this beautiful, rich diversity, and it is our responsibility to be a part of that diversity and celebrate that diversity. It is not that we take care of diversity and preserve it and protect it like the way we have always understood. We are a part of that rich diversity of God's creation. To that extent, the other is a part of me, because I cannot exist. I cannot be without the other. So it is that kind of interconnectedness that I was talking to you about. It's that kind of interdependence that is necessary for us to look towards an inclusive world where the identity and dignity of each is affirmed, not denigrated or sidelined or seen as not important enough. So everyone lives with dignity and freedom. That is exactly what I've been saying, that we look for a world which assures life with dignity and justice for all. So when we say dignity, it affirms the personhood. Not only the personhood, but the existence of every
the wholeness
creature,
of the creature.
So that's
You did talk about why not institutionalizing the movement is important, and that speaks to a criticism that I think the church has had in terms of being rigid in tradition and therefore not being able to respond, or when it is contextual issues, the church is not able to respond to contextual issues because it's seen as a place of dogma and doctrine and not really, the theology of living realities. So in doing and reshaping and thinking through transformative ecumenism, what's the way forward in rethinking the framework so that it's also compatible and collaborates with frameworks like peace building or ecological justice?
Okay, let me just say a bit about what I understand as the church.
Yeah.
The church primarily is not an institution.
Yes.
It's not a structure.
Yeah.
The church is primarily people.
Yeah.
And, church is not just also primarily people in the sense of a religious community, but church is a called community with a mandate to be a witness and to be a foretaste and a symbol of the world to come. To that extent, it is to be more in the mode of a movement than in the mode of an institution. But unfortunately, wherever it is, all over the world, unfortunately, the church is an institution, and the church is a hierarchical structure with rigid doctrines and traditions and what have you. So as a result, the church's capacity to respond to the clamor for life, the clamor for justice, is often not able to be seen or heard. So this is where I think we need to do a lot of introspection as churches to see how best can we be the communities that are called for a purpose. Yeah. So that is what it is, I would say. So in the same thing, you are talking about
the integration, or how does transformative ecumenism collaborate with movements like peace building movements or ecological?
When you're talking about movement, so this movement is actually, the church itself is a movement of partners in God's mission.
Yeah. Okay. I like that.
So we all belong to the church, but we are all partners in God's mission. We are not believers. That's what many people might think. They say that's what we're all believers, fellow believers. That's the way popular understanding is. But my understanding is that we are all fellow disciples.
Yeah.
We are all partners in God's mission. And only when we understand it ourselves as partners in God's mission, we assert ourselves, our self-identity as a church. So therefore, the partnership becomes an essential, important thing. So when you are trying to be in partnership for the sake of God's mission, now it is not necessarily that it is a closed community of partners. It is an open community of partners. It's an inclusive community of partners. Whoever is involved, whoever is engaged in making a difference in the lives of the people, whoever is affecting change,
the carrier of good news.
So they become a part of the community.
Yeah.
That's what Jesus said, whoever, when you see some of the things like, poor being the good news is being preached to the poor. That is a sign of the kingdom.
Yeah.
So that is how we need to understand. I mean, I understand the church as.
Okay.
Church as, and that is a kind of a church that I think transformative ecumenism strives to sort of achieve, or strives to accomplish.
Yeah. It gives a very different sense of the body of Christ, but also how we do discipleship or how we respond to the issues of the world. As we wind up, I think the world as it is now is going through a lot of transitions, a lot of pain, a lot of economical inequality. We we are the crossroads, and it looks like looking from outside, you say the future is dim. How do you see the movement of the transformative ecumenism movement guide the vision for equitable futures, but also perhaps a more collaborative, I want to say church, using your definition? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as a response to this question, I don't want to use platitudes, but I want to be very clear about the hard road ahead. It is a beautiful idea, very creative idea, a timely idea, transformative ecumenism, an ecumenism that is people-based as against institution-based.
Yeah.
An ecumenism that is justice-oriented, seeking justice, not unity.
There's a difference. Yeah,
there is a difference here.
Because sometimes unity is at the expense of justice.
Justice.
Yeah.
So it is justice-oriented, and then change affecting kind of a reality, outfit. So how do we work towards this goal of people-based, justice-oriented, and change-affecting ecumenism? And that is what we mean by transformative ecumenism. So, but then the challenge here is that, as I've said in the beginning, how do you attract, or how do you invite, or how do you appeal to people to come and join and embrace a movement, a theological idea, and become a movement? So that is a big challenge, because we are not calling institutions.
Yeah, you're calling individuals.
People. So therefore, what we have done as part of our work is we have lifted up certain core areas of engagement.
Okay.
That is economic justice,
okay,
ecological justice, gender justice, climate justice, human dignity, and promoting progressive, inclusive political cultures. So these 5 or 6 are going to be our core concerns. I mean, we can include a number of issues, and we can try to do all of that. But what we have decided is that at this stage, as we get started, that we would focus on these core themes, which we hope would attract.
Yeah, they're also very encompassing on the human experience.
Yeah, and to attract people to be a part of the transformative ecumenism. But as I say it, we are not only saying that people become a part of the transformative ecumenism movement, but we also think that it is necessary for us to be a part of the other movements. So it is not just we are inviting, but we want to be a part of that. So that is how it is, actually. Yeah.
So other than your events, I'm curious, because I came across your event in Nairobi at the All African Conference of Churches. But I'm curious if an individual who is not a member church or anything, I mean, how do they connect? How do they plug in? Because I'm sure that's a question that especially young people who want to see ecumenism done differently would ask.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the point. We are not an institution or a church-bound movement. So in a way that if you want to be a part of a transformative ecumenism movement, it is basically your commitment for...
It's in your praxis as a pastor.
Praxis.
Yeah,
your commitment for justice.
Okay.
Your commitment for people.
Okay.
That is...
So it's almost like a silent pledge you make by yourself.
Yes, exactly.
Wonderful.
So here, transformative ecumenism provides a space and an opportunity for people within the church, outside the church.
It's self-organizing.
to come together into this space and see how we can work together, and at the same time, how we can be a part of the wider movements. Yeah. The reason is that unfortunately, in the present scenario, when there is so much is happening in the world, the churches are very silent and calculated in their response.
Power is a strange thing.
And we really can't expect much from the church in terms of effecting the change or the changes that the world badly requires at this moment in time. But I think that is possible only when we are able to invent or attempt new ways of
thinking and doing
Christian
things.
Witness or Christian presence and practice.
I have no further questions for you, Dr. Manchala, unless you have final words for us.
Well, thank you very much. And I enjoyed
this was a good conversation.
Yeah.
And even for me, I feel like I will consider my ways
thank you.
in doing ecumenism, because I think your point on that most of us think about ecumenism as a place of unity and not necessarily justice is a very strong point.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.